Thank you all for coming to our talk on how AI is transforming the hardware development flow. I am Tomide. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a company called CircuitMind. I'm hosting this panel today. And with me, I have three other experts of AI in the hardware industry. And they're three experts that come from different parts of the design and development workflow. And so what we'll be doing today is we'll be introducing how AI is already transforming the hardware design flow, and then we will talk about some of the issues that people are facing, some of the challenges that AI is trying to kind of solve, and we'll have, I think, a good discussion about how you can adopt AI in your workflows and so on. The way we're going to do this is, I'll start with the introduction, and then everyone is going to come and do a 5-minute talk on their special area of AI in the sort of hardware design world. And then after that, we will sit down and have a panel where I'll ask some of the critical questions that are probably on some of your minds and that we've gathered around the industry. I hear these questions every day, so we just want to kind of talk about our own perspectives on those questions. So these guys can introduce themselves better than I can. So what I'll do is I'll give you just a brief introduction. I'm Tomide, co-founder and CEO of CircuitMind. My background is in building AI tools for the front end of your electronics engineering design process. So that's what my company does, and we have a product out there that I'll introduce to you today. We've got Michael over there he's the co-founder and CEO of a company called Embedd. Embedd?
Embedd, yeah.
Embedd, yeah. So Embedd is building AI for automatically generating embedded drivers and software. So that's the embedded expert. We've got Nabil over here. He's on the back end of the design flow. So his company InstaDeep and the product DeepPCB builds AI for the back end of your design flow, so layout generation. And then we have Adam Taylor here, whose company builds FPGAs and which help to basically accelerate the kind of training and execution of AI. And he has some very interesting ideas and expertise on some tiny machine learning ideas, basically. So I'll let them introduce themselves when they come up, but we'll start with 5 minutes from Nabil, 5 minutes from Adam, 5 minutes from Michael, and then it'll be myself afterwards. And then we'll start the panel after that. Just take it away.
Okay. Hello. So I'm Nabil Chouba, project manager and owner of DeepPCB. It's a product from InstaDeep. So InstaDeep we see ourselves as a machine learning decision company. So basically we use machine learning plus domain expertise to build a scalable product based on reinforcement learning. We specialize in reinforcement learning, which is a type of making the agent learn from trial and error. So you define rewards. Whenever he does something good, you give him a reward. Whenever he does something bad, you give him a penalty. And over time, it's like a kid. He learns how to behave well and solve the problem that you give to him. One of the problems that we have solved using reinforcement learning and ML is routing trains. And always you will see the same pattern. So you have the domain expertise that come from Deutsche Bahn. We partnered with them, and we added our domain expertise in machine learning, and we are able to route train using reinforcement learning. We have a contract. They started with 2 years contract, and after they saw that there is a big potential there, they add the contract of 5 years. They also invested on us on Series B last years with Google and BioNTech and Deutsche Bahn. They invest 100 million. The other product that we have is DeepPack, which optimizes how to do the packing, beam packing. And the other product we have also is drug discovery. We work with BioNTech on this. And the product that I'm going to present today is DeepPCB. So how we see a PCB is we have a bottom-up approach, which we start by doing routing. After once the agents know how to do routing, we switch to do placement. And once you combine those two, the idea is to go up and do the schematics too. Currently, we have a good results on routing and placement, and we're trying to expand to further things. Okay, so what we are trying to optimize on PCBs. Basically, the agents learn how to optimize the number of VIA used. So whenever he uses less VIA, we give him more rewards, and he learn that using VIA is not good thing. Same thing, we try to make him learn to minimize the track length of the wires. Other feature that we support is that we support also planes. We try to push him to maximize the area of the planes, to stop the radiation and to pass the EMA test, and also to push more current. If you have a cat here, you cannot push current from the side. So we support planes. How the product works. So you go on the internet, you log in, and you send us the boards. So basically all the EDI tools, they support a Spectra format. So you export the DSM files, you give it to us, we do the routing, and you download the solution back. I can do a small demo for you. So I'm going to use KiCad. So this is, let me zoom. Okay, so what you do on KiCad, you just go to File, Export, Spectra DSN, you save the file. After you go on our platform, you log in. Okay, it's totally free for small boards. You just, the file that you have generated, you send it to us. Submit. So now we are allocating GPUs and CPU on the clouds to solve the problems. You confirm, and the fun starts. So the agent start to route the boards and learn what are the features inside your boards. It's going to take a few minutes to start, so I'm going to just show you the results. So at the beginning, he's going to route just a small portion of the boards. He's missing one wire, and he's using 17 VIAs. And over time, he's pushing the connections further, and you can see at the end, he's not using any VIAs. So connection without VIAs. Also, he's not doing any cut on the plane. Okay, let's go back to the presentation rapidly. Okay, so what we support now, we support 4 layers, 1,000 connections. We support multiplane, the solution are DRC clean. We support most of the EDI tool, OrCAD, Allegro, PAD, Zuken, Altium, Eagle, and all the others, basically. The product is free. You can try it. You can just go on the internet as I did and give it a try. Okay, this is a complicated board, and you can see how the machine learning is trying to find the solutions. And you can see it's pretty complicated. So this is a DDR3. This is an NXP EMX6. And what we don't support is, we don't support wire matching. We don't support wire length min-max matching. We don't support differential pair, but we are working on those ones to be able to support them. Currently, the best way to use our tool is that to route those critical signal that we don't support. And we finish the job for you. So basically, DeepPCB is a tool that will make you more efficient at your work. You do the 20% that is complicated for us, and we finish the 80%. And this will push you to improve the efficiency in the company. And over time, we'll push back, and we are working on supporting the extra features, and we can deliver good routing. Yeah, I'm done.
Thank you very much, Nabil.
Thanks.
And by the way, we'll have questions later on, so please just keep your questions and we'll talk at the end.
Hi, good afternoon all. Hopefully you can all hear me okay. My name's Adam Taylor, and I run a company called Adiuvo Engineering and Training. We've been going now longer than I'd care to think, maybe 10 years or so, just coming up to 10 years. And we're predominantly FPGA designers and developers. We will do boards as well if necessary, but we're predominantly FPGA sort of embedded software people. And what's really interesting about this panel today is once Tomide's system has designed you the schematic. Once DeepPCB has then taken that away and produced a board, it comes to somebody like me to begin to write the FPGA for it, or indeed the embed for the embedded software. And what we see is we see some really interesting challenges in using FPGA. So how many people in this room have used an FPGA? Quite a few. How many people have seen projects go horrendously wrong because they use an FPGA? Quite a few as well. FPGAs are great technologies, but they do sort of kill projects slightly at some point in time. You know, you normally see a project manager walking with his head in his hands when you say we're going to solve this problem with an FPGA. They see their budgets, their timescales, their sanity going out the window. But what's really interesting is over the last, I would say the last 5 years or so, maybe 10 years certainly, but the last 5 years has seen it maturing actually, is that FPGAs are beginning to move away from designing and developing where you have to develop using RTL-based approaches such as VHDL and Verilog, and they're moving much more into working with frameworks. And this started out back in 2013 with sort of the ability to use things like high-level C. So high-level synthesis, sorry. So using high-level synthesis, you can compile down to VHDL or Verilog. So it gives you a nice level of abstraction to create your applications. And people started working on this to create AI applications. So there's a few, if you go looking on GitHub, there's quite a number of HLS-based acceleration, neural network acceleration frameworks available. But one of the most interesting things over the last 10 years is actually this merge that FPGAs have done between processors and programmable logic, where they, quite often these days, a lot of them contain both of them. And what this allows you to do is allows you to optimize your system to be able to run the sequential bits that are really good on the processor and offload the parallel bits that need accelerating onto the programmable logic. And for AI, that's really important because what you can do is you can run some of your algorithms on the processor, and then you can accelerate key elements of your neural network into that programmable logic, into that, and give you the high frame rates and the high performance that most applications want. So there's a few of these frameworks available now. You know, they come from AMD. You know, there's the Vitis AI framework, which will work with TensorFlow, PyTorch, and all the main frameworks, and allow you not to be an FPGA engineer to need to implement and accelerate the framework. So it's quite a powerful application there. So we spend a lot of our time developing systems that will accelerate algorithms and do the AI. Of course, actually, the AI is kind of like in the application space. There's a lot of other things that need to be done to get to the AI algorithm actually running. You know, if we're working with a camera, an image sensor, you know, we need to be able to configure, control, process, format that image such that it's in a sensible format that it can be put through AI. If we're working with RF signals and we want to do some signal classification or some signals intelligence or something, you know, we need to be able to go through, do FFTs, create waterfall diagrams, and then put the resultant image through the convolutional neural network. So FPGAs are brilliant for that because they give you that, they've got that parallel structure to them. So it gives you that really great ability to accelerate algorithms and implementations. But not everything needs to actually run at 100 frames per second, 60 frames per second on a full 4K screen. And so some of the work that we're doing alongside of the high performance AI is actually looking at TinyML. So TinyML is using sort of fixed point optimized software-based routines, essentially. In fact, there's a great company downstairs, Edge Impulse, which is worth taking a look at to see that. But we run, another benefit of FPGAs is actually putting small little micros in there that can run TinyML on there and using those for prognostics on the system that we're working on. So we do a lot of work with satellites. So it's really interesting. In fact, we've just won another contract to do this, to actually take a look at running TinyML with sensor augmentation coming in from the position keeping sensors, the battery information, the telemetry information, the powers, the voltages, all the things that are present on a satellite to actually run in a slower, because it's not 60 frames per second needed, slower system to work out whether your elements of your satellite are beginning to fail. And obviously, if you know things are beginning to fail, you can do that mitigation and begin to plan for that mitigation such that you don't suffer an outage. And that's really one of the interesting things for me about FPGAs is we can do everything. We can do that sensor fusion, pull it in and push it through using TinyML because of that any-to-any type interfacing, or we can do that really high performance acceleration of high performance algorithms that you might want if you were, say, to use an aircraft or a car or to do some signals intelligence. And I think that's my 5-minute introduction. So I'll look forward to asking any questions that you've got later on. And I'll pass over to the next speaker.
Yeah, I think it's me, but I think technical issues have been sorted. Meanwhile, hi everyone. Let's give a round of applause. Maybe you should restart it.
Restart the computer?
The preview or computer.
Yeah, I'm trying to restart.
Okay, I'll probably start. Maybe we'll have a presentation, but I'll try to walk you through it. So what we do is we automate embedded software development. And the first product that we are building right now, the first layer, is in automating drivers for semiconductor chips. So how do we do it? Basically, we build a system that's able to make sense out of those nightmarish data sheets, where we are basically able to build digital component model. So what happens is, as a developer, you're able to upload component data sheet to the system, and then we run ML to make sense out of it and build a standardized machine and human readable model. Then you basically can see a configurable interface that allows you to select the options that are relevant to your project. Select the interface that you want to use for that particular product you're building. Select modulation type, provide you high-level functions, ultimately set up the specifics of the components to be relevant to you. So now we have basically inputs from the component on the component side. We then are able to take in your inputs about your target architecture. So let's say you're building on FreeRTOS or bare metal on STM32F1. So you provide those inputs to us, and based on those two things, we actually generate semiconductor driver for you that incorporates the input data that you've configured for your specific use into the target architecture that you are running in your project. The ultimate goal here is to allow to disconnect your dependency of your firmware on the underlying hardware you're building. So the next step for us would be to not just generate individual drivers for components, but ultimately to allow you to upload your whole circuit board design, provide your performance targets, your architectural preferences, your individual component configurations, and based on that, we're going to generate you the whole hardware board support package, basically, with the hardware abstraction layer in it. Therefore, providing you with sort of set of standardized APIs to allow you focus only on the application layer. So yeah, I don't think the presentation is going to come up, but yeah. Anyway, thank you. I'm going to pass on to Tommy there.
Sorry about that. I think we're still having some issues. So I just want this to try to come up. That sucks. All right. Okay. When it comes up, I'll just kind of show you what we do. But yeah, thanks a lot for that, Michael. That was sorry about the issues. But yeah, I'm Tomide. Like I mentioned, I'm the co-founder and CEO of a company called CircuitMind. Before CircuitMind, I was like a lot of you in the room. I was an electronic systems engineer. So I used to build high-integrity augmented reality display systems for jet fighter pilots, so helmet-mounted display systems and heads-up display systems at a company called BAE Systems. Some of you might know it. I decided to leave electronics engineering because I got tired of reading data sheets. And so I started CircuitMind a few years ago now to try to build intelligent assistants for electronics engineering applications. Just see if it's working. All right. Okay, so that's launched now. So yeah, so what we've come up with at CircuitMind is an intelligent assistant or an intelligent new workflow for the front end of your development process. So you've heard from Nabil, who does the back end. You've heard about the sort of embed, which is on the kind of is on the is on the embedded part of your workflow, and then you have the FPGAs. So what we're looking at is on the front end of your workflow, and it's from architecture to schematic. So let me just kind of pull something up here and kind of show you what we do at CircuitMind. I don't think all of this stuff should be up on your screen, but we'll just roll with it. Come on. All right, that's just not going to work, is it? Right, so we look at the front end of your design and development flow, and what we do is we help you go from architecture, so your requirements, to your schematic in 60 seconds. And I know that sounds crazy, but this is kind of the idea of what we do. Now, we still expect you to be an engineer and verify your design and do the most complex parts of your architecture, but our main aim is to help you go from concept to actually a ready-made schematic with all the component selection done for you in about 60 to 600 seconds, so 1 minute to 10 minutes. And so this is how the platform works. So you specify your requirements as a block diagram, because that's how a lot of engineers kind of start their workflow. Specify it as a block diagram. On each of the blocks, you can specify low-level requirements on those blocks. So you can say, for instance, that I want my microcontroller to be from a specific manufacturer, Nordic. I want my memory block to have memory size of greater than or equal to this, or I want a particular sensing temperature range. You can do all of that, and then you can specify trade-offs. Do I care about cost? Do I care about size? Do I care about power? Do I care about availability? You can specify all those different things, click a button, and generate multiple different selected components, and so multiple different BOMs and multiple different schematics that you can compare against each other. And once that's done, you can then do verification checks on all of those schematics to make sure that you haven't made any issues or errors. And so once you do that, I'm sure the next thing is, well, how can I use this in my own design flow? So the main thing, the next thing you can do is you can actually export your schematics and use that in your chosen design tool, whether that's Altium, OrCAD, DipTrace, KeyCAD, etc. So that is what CircuitMind is about. It's about that front end of the design process. And obviously, if you want to kind of explore any of the different tools that you've heard about today, you can always reach out to any of us. You'll get our contact details probably from the app, or we can give it to you after the event. You can come up to us, get cards or something. Cool. So that's me. That's front end. That's back end. That's embedded and FPGAs. So thanks a lot for listening. We'll jump into the panel now. Thank you. And so basically what we're going to do now is, I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions for the guys, but I've got a few questions of my own. So, I precede you guys in that. So I'll ask a few questions. And these are questions that I encounter every day when we're selling our tool, when we're putting it in the hands of engineers. And they will have their own kind of take on it. So let's ask a few of these questions. And I'll try to keep like 10 minutes for you to ask your questions. And if they're not, we want it free and flowing. We want you to have as many questions as possible. But if you're not asking questions, I'll have more questions for you. So the first question I've got, and I'll start with yourself, Adam. What are the drivers and challenges that are causing executives, managers, and engineers to seek out new tools in your area of expertise?
So that's a really great question. I think for me as an FPGA engineer, if you look at the sizes that FPGAs are at these days, it's actually very difficult to, it's very difficult to find FPGA engineers in the UK. I have a joke that I tell people that there's probably more giraffes in zoos than there are FPGA engineers in the UK. And it's probably true. As much as I can work out, it's probably quite close. But if you look at the number of FPGA engineers available, if you look at the number of FPGA designs that are started every year, and then you look at the size of the FPGAs and the complexity of what we want to put into them, it's very difficult to be able to write VHDL and Verilog to actually fill these things. So people are moving more into, as you'll know from your experience at BAE, you know, people are moving more into the model-based approach, the model-based flow. And anything you can do to accelerate productivity and help you get towards the end of that, particularly as we were sat talking about outside, where AI doesn't necessarily have to replace everything, but it can give you that 80% solution, that assistance solution, that baseline solution that you can then go away and build on, and it helps you get towards that challenge. So I think that's one of the main things that we're looking at, the shortage of engineers and the demands that we have and the capabilities that we need to do going forwards, I think, drive the need to look for new paradigms.
Fantastic, great answer. Does anyone else want to weigh in?
Yeah, I think as we are engineering and project manager, we want to push efficiency high all the time, cheaper, faster, better. And when you look at ChatGPT, for example, he's able to eat all the data on the internet and compress them on few parameters, which that means that he's able to understand the dynamic of the world, compress it to few rules and few feature he's able to extract the features. If we are able to do the same thing for hardware design, that's going to be a game changer. And this is basically what DeepPCB is doing. We are feeding the agents with a lot of boards that are already routed, and we expect him to understand the dynamic and to be able to do the placement and routing, and also to read from datasheet, as my colleagues were saying. And it's all about pushing the efficiency high. So rather than doing the whole design by yourself, you give the agents to do some for you.
Makes sense, thank you.
Yes, I think one of the big things that we've been hearing from device developers is that everyone is under a lot of pressure, and the pressure is coming from first thing, the ever-last changing semiconductor market with shortages, with changes in supply, and the fact that they have to keep up with that and be able to be quick on their feet to integrate stuff much faster than they previously done. And at the same time, the pace of semiconductor innovation is also increasing, and the pace at which communication standards are progressing is also quicker than it used to be. And everyone has to adopt to this, and everyone has to find a way to potentially take out parts of the manual work that they're currently doing and be able to focus on those more complex challenges of actually understanding how those new technologies could be applied and how to integrate them and how to actually utilize them in the right way, rather than doing a lot of the manual work that's currently being done in the hardware development process. So that seems to be one of the things, at least.
Right, so productivity, cheaper, faster, better, and also focusing on the inventive stuff, right, rather than the manual, tedious tasks. So that's kind of what's driving. So I've got a few other questions, and I'll make these questions more targeted. So one question that I have for you, Nabil, because you guys are using, like you said, you're using boards that have already been designed. So what key message do you have for any engineers, managers, or executives that are concerned about data and IP? Who owns the IP? If I give you my board, etc., etc. What kind of message do you have for?
Yeah. When customers come to us, they have two things. It's like, if we give you the data, we want to use the advantage competitive edge to ourselves. We don't want to share it, basically. And also, we don't want to send our board to your cloud. So for those two problems, it's like we can use your data only for you. We train the agents only on your boards. And if we train him only on your board, the problem would be easier, because probably you don't have DDR on your boards, you don't need signal integrity or things like that. Also, if DeepPCB, for example, it's cloud agnostic, so we can implement that on your local cloud or on local provider, Google or Amazon or whatever. So by doing this, I think we solve the problem of the IPs and the data
issues.
Data issue, yeah.
That makes sense. Adam, so what are the use cases? So we hear a lot about AI acceleration, a lot, but what are the key use cases that people are already leveraging in industry using FPGAs to kind of accelerate AI?
So I think in my I think in our case, it's people are accelerating sort of the application, the end product. So they're trying to do things such as collision detection, pedestrian detection, things like that. We've been recently talking to a really interesting company. If you've paid any attention to the terrible situation that's going on in Ukraine, you'll see that drones have become quite an interesting game changer over there. So we've been talking to a company recently that wanted to accelerate sort of the AI for detecting drones using acoustic methods. So I think there's a lot of applications out there that people are coming to and they're wanting to do that acceleration. And it's not necessarily the applications that you might think. It's all the little weird and wonderful things like the drones or the telemetry and telecommands on satellites and stuff. I think really we've just sort of started on that journey of finding applications that are going to benefit from acceleration and AI.
Perfect. Thank you. Michael, for you, one of the questions I've always that I always go up against every single day is the idea that electronics engineers or software engineers think that AI is gonna, the AI tool is gonna replace them. So, is AI a threat to job security of electronic or embedded software engineers?
I think it's sort of touching on what I've said in the previous question, and that's about reallocating the resource, really. Mm-hmm. So the stack of electronic engineering, the stack of firmware software developer is pretty wide, and we do believe that there is a lot more value added to be focusing on higher level application, to be focusing on debugging, and at the same time there are a lot of tasks and challenges that do not really require so much of your human computing capacity, and we really believe that it's not gonna take your job in any meaningful amount of time, but it's definitely gonna make your job different. It's gonna allow you to take out all of the sort of boring and annoying things that previously kind of took a lot of time and reallocate it to somewhere where you can add a bit more creativity, where you can actually add more value as a developer.
Fantastic. I hope you guys are convinced. So I'm going to open the questions over to you. But before I go to just open questions, is there anyone that doesn't understand what each of us is doing? So that we clarify. Okay, good. Okay, anyone have any questions for anyone specifically on the panel? Go for it.
Can you hear me? Okay. I have a question for Embedd. So one thing that I'm not fully clear on is you mentioned that your application takes the datasheet and generates a driver. So first of all, is this driver like a program, like a C driver, for example, for bare metal? And if it is, will it differentiate between having a driver for bare metal compared to something like Zephyr or RTOS compared to Linux?
Yeah, absolutely. So we don't actually go straight from PDF to code. So the way that our system works is we use machine learning only to make sense out of the datasheet. So we take out all of the data from datasheets, the text, charts, metadata, graphs. We create tags and we embed it into fine-tuned LLMs. And we fine-tune LLMs based on different semiconductor manufacturers because they haven't come up with a standardized approach to datasheets, unfortunately. So based on that, we basically create a digital component model. So now you have all of the data that's relevant to your firmware in one digital space, and that data is backlinked to PDF, and that data is editable. So you can see everything, only that's relevant to your code. From there, we basically go deterministically into code, and we build abstract syntax trees for different target architecture. So whether that's Zephyr, whether that's Simsys or FreeRTOS or VxWorks, we basically add that as a target root, and we compile code deterministically. So we actually don't use ML to generate code, because with deterministic root, we are able to have much higher level of code stability. We're able to comply with software standards like MISRA. we are able to follow your certain coding styles and preferences, and therefore sort of ML in us is sitting in actually making sure that we understand the data, not so much in code generation where there's still technology has to progress a bit and there still needs to be more training data to be able to achieve anything there. But to answer your questions, yes, we differentiate and able to provide you with different options.
Thank you.
Who's next? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, hello. Yeah, I've got a question as well for the Embedd filler.
Thanks.
So, does your system have a sort of thing where you can somewhat describe to it in which way you want the driver to work? Like, for example, let's take an accelerometer, right? Like one I was working with the other day. Like, typically, an accelerometer, there might be like actually quite a few different ways you want it to work. Like maybe in one situation, you want to write the driver such that it's in sleep mode and then it notifies the MCU on some activity, right? But then in like another situation, you might just want to continuously stream XYZ data at some output data rate through like a FIFO or something. So does your system allow the person to describe how they want the, like, what the chip can do, like the different ways it can work and what the developer wants it to do?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are some other even more extreme examples with wireless communication modules where configuration of the model is a science of itself. And the way we approach this is we extract all of the relevant data, but some of the data, and let's take a simpler example like interface. You might have 3 interfaces in single component, and there's going to be only one you're using. So within the interface, we provide you with the ability to actually choose which one of the interfaces you want to choose. You can select the mode, so you might have multiple modes. You select the mode, and we then compile code based on the, generate code based on that specific option that you've selected in the user interface.
Okay, I see. I was going to ask something else as well. Just kind of lost me now. Oh yeah, like so that's quite cool. So does that mean in the future, like you said, like currently every manufacturer writes a data sheet in different ways. Most of the time they're badly written. Sometimes even just flat out have mistakes. Do you think in the future then they'll be moving towards some kind of like common standard format for which something like your tool could parse it? So like manufacturers would make it specifically in a parsable format for you. Do you think?
I would love that, and we've been trying to talk to manufacturers, and if any one of you is from a manufacturing company, please come talk to me. And we've had even ideas of providing manufacturers with free user interface so they actually create data sheets, and as an output they get the PDF document they love so much, and also we get a machine readable output, so we don't need to fight formatting and any of that. So I hope it's going to get to that. There are some manufacturers that already do that. There are a lot of manufacturers who still use Excel, so, or in Word, so, or who paste screenshots of formulas into their data sheets. So I hope it's going to come to that. But right now, the industry is slightly
Fragmented.
Yeah.
So it's just big LLMs for now, basically.
Yeah. I would love to change that, but yeah.
Great, thanks. Great question.
Thank you.
Okay.
What is the form of it?
You get source code in C or C++. We plan to address it, so you have full ability to actually control whatever's going to go into your project. But effectively, there are a few layers. First layer of optimization. Let's say you want to power optimize it. We're going to add those options later. So you will be able to provide us, say, I want this device to be power optimal, and then we'll look for which modes of the device will get us to the most power optimal result. But end output of a solution are 3 things. One is a source code in the programming language that you selected, C, C++, for example. 2 is documentation. And 3 is a test suite. It's basically a C application that emulates the behavior of a component based on datasheet prescribed behavior and tests the driver code. So you can actually flash it into your physical hardware and see whether the driver is working. And then you are free to use the driver code and adjust it if you need to do it.
Right. Any other questions?
Hi.
Yeah, question directed to me, Dave, if I can. So I've also worked with BA Systems and worked with some very difficult requirements in the past. So with CircuitMind, is it able to analyze things like a MIL standard 810G, a certain requirement that needs to be met? Is it able to look at that and then actually provide some design recommendations for how that's supposed to be met?
Yeah, so I mean that's the idea. The idea of the platform is that you should be able to specify things like that, including standards. And I think the critical piece that it's helping with is selecting components to meet those standards. It will also do a design or schematic, but what we believe is that if you are trying to meet some, let's say, functional safety standard or something like that, we care about helping you with the component selection, but we won't do all this sort of last mile kind of experience-based circuitry design around that unless you specify that in your architecture. We wouldn't do that automatically, at least right now. So what we believe is we'll get you to that, you know, to help you do the component selection, help you optimize that component selection. And obviously, and we actually do that similarly to the way Embedd does, extracting information from data sheets. But then that last mile is still an experienced engineer's kind of mainstay, right? That's the idea.
Thanks.
Great. Okay. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you to our lovely panelists. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Appreciate it.